Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 Power of Africa Conference. This year's theme is The Future is Africa, and you're here with me, Radile Matlapeng. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I'm also the co founder of a company called Doctors E Consult. I'm from a little country called Botswana, and today we're going to have a very exciting guest called Mwai Yebua.
Hi.
Hi, Mwai. Yes, just tell us a little bit about Mwai Yebua. I know everybody's excited to find out who is Mwai Yebua.
Of course, and thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. So my name is Moyeboa. I am from Zambia, and married to a Ghanaian. So hence you've got the two names, two cultures coming together. Based in London, but I work in Africa. So I'm the founder, or rather, I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder of many brands, but the brands that advocate for the African continent. So one of the brands is Exoda Africa, which has got 9 brands under it, and we are built on the ethos of exhorting the continent of Africa. So through travel and tourism, through events, through entertainment, podcasts, books, etc. And we also want to showcase the unseen Africa. So to take it even further, we also have a magazine under Exoda Africa called 54. 54 as in 54 African countries. So our goal or aim is to showcase one African country at a time, to showcase the unseen Africa, to showcase her wealth and who she is so that people can understand the true authentic Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mwai. Just from the passion that you have, I can tell how much you really, really love Africa. And I, for one, know that Africa has a lot of unseen destinations because I come from a country called Botswana, which nestles the Okavango, right? So I think just take the viewers through some of those unseen places that you're talking about and about your magazine. We're very excited to hear about that.
My pleasure. And you're absolutely right. I live for Africa. She is in me. You know the saying, the son of the soil, daughter of the soil. And this is exactly who I am. And I think over the past few years, I've actually learned to appreciate even Africa because I'm in the diaspora. You know what they say, home will always be home, and home is where the heart and the roots are. So my goal has always to tell people the place that I'm from, because when you live on the other side of the world, there's a lot of misconception about who Africa is and what she does because of the development that is still taking place. And of course, as you know, a lot of people associate the African continent with poverty, corruption, etc. But I know there's so much beauty there, so I took it upon me, and of course the people that aligned with my mission, to make sure that we showcase the unseen Africa. I believe that each destination is beautiful, there's so much to showcase there, but I always thought that every time you want to showcase an African country, if you try and Google most of the African countries, not a lot of pretty stuff comes up. But if you try to Google maybe a city in Italy, oh my goodness, like Como, etc. So I wanted to showcase the true authentic Africa, because there are destinations that don't have voices, but they're incredible. Their culture, her people. So some of the destinations that I started showcasing are destinations that, for example, have got unsettlement, or they're not very developed, but yet they have so much to offer. There's not much marketing about those countries or cities, etc. Because I wanted to make sure that I am the voice. I'm able to showcase the beauty, but also how to get there, how safe it is, etc. I'll start with Ethiopia. As you know, Ethiopia has got a lot of like history in Africa with regards to like war, etc. So for me, I wanted to show people that actually, yes, what you see on the news can be true to some point, but there are resolutions. People move forward. I wanted to show people what Ethiopia has. So, what I've started doing with the magazine is hosting something that is called the greatest party of all Africa, because, Africa is the greatest party of all. And the aim is to showcase the beauty and the culture of each individual African country. So every year we host this party in different countries. We invite, world-renowned, for example, musicians or designers, etc., from Africa, and from the diaspora. And for one night only, we say, forget about who you are as a celebrity. For one night only, come into this African country. Let's dance, let's eat, let's all be one. Let us show people that, we are the ethos of Ubuntu. I am because you are. So we were in Ethiopia in May. We did the greatest party of all, and it was incredible because we had people from different countries, different cultures coming together in one country to showcase just how safe this country is. And we worked with the Ethiopian government, tourism as well, to showcase Destination Ethiopia. It was incredible because after this, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know Ethiopia was that beautiful. Not only did we showcase the town, but we went literally in the villages to show the beautiful culture, like the Umu tribes, etc. So it was incredible. And then some of the other countries that I've showcased is Mozambique as well. Again, there was a bit of political unrest during the pandemic up north, but we managed to get in there to showcase the beauty of Mozambique. Because you talk about Bahamas and the sandy beaches, I was like, let me show you Mozambique, and it's incredible there as well. But also, I did most of the travel during the pandemic because Africa didn't have a voice. There was COVID quite all right, but if you remember very well, a lot of African countries suffered because flights were not going there, and they were saying that when you travel to Africa, when you go to other continents, you have to quarantine because Africa has got COVID. Meanwhile, other continents, when you travel, Italy had also the worst cases. You didn't need to quarantine anyways. So I took it upon myself to showcase the unseen Africa, to showcase how safe these countries are and the beauty. So I decided to showcase the culture, but also I decided to work with the governments and tourism boards to also show people that there are people that are listening. There are people who take pride of these countries. So we've done Zambia, we've done Zimbabwe, we've done South Africa, we've done Mozambique, we've done Ethiopia, Rwanda, one of my favorite countries as well, because believe it or not, in as much as we have the Visit Rwanda campaign, a lot of people from outside Africa, if you talk about Rwanda, they still think about genocide, even though this happened a long time ago. So for me, I try to showcase that other side of Africa that people don't even know is there. And we use the magazine as well. Sudan, there's war happening right now. I chose to showcase the culture because when this war is gone or is finished, what happens to her people? How do we get people back into Sudan to showcase the beauty of the Sudanese people? So this is what we do as a magazine, showcasing and preserving the African culture because we are the mecca of African culture.
I'm just smiling because I'm really floored by how passionate you are about Africa. I know I didn't know you had so many events done all across. I knew about the one you've done in Zambia as well. But it's really, really amazing what you're doing with Africa. You're really just unearthing what people don't see, because you're right. We have this perception about Africa that it's people living in little huts. It's people living in little huts with not much to offer. So I really, really love how you're digging deep in and actually going to unearth these beautiful destinations that we have in Africa. And yeah, we can have a little Paris here in Africa too, right? So I really,
Absolutely.
really I really love how you're doing that, Mai. So, you're not just passionate about Africa. I know that you are also a cancer survivor. So, I want us to talk a little bit about that.
Of
Cancer is
course.
something, yeah. So, cancer is something that a lot of us, who, if you're told you have cancer, I think would all feel, wow. How do I overcome this? I know a few years ago I had a cancer scare, but I don't think I would have been as brave as you. So I just want you to tell us about your cancer journey.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sorry to hear about your cancer journey. I always say every illness is different. And also, I feel like it affects people differently as well. So I always respect everyone's journey. Um, and it always is not it always, it hasn't always been, this easy where like I'm advocating for it and I'm here working and I'm smiling. No, I had to understand and accept the journey. I think for me, it was a matter of being content first. So the first time, of course, I found out that I had cancer, I was very young. I was 16, going to 17, and that was not easy for me. Foreign country, finding out you got breast cancer, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is it. Because mention like growing up in Africa, when someone talks about AIDS, it's like, yeah, you're going, because, by then we didn't have that much information. Like, that's it, you're dead. And cancer is the same thing. I'll give you an example. I come from a place where 2 million people, one cancer hospital. Do the maths, right? And when you talk about cancer, it's a death wish. It's literally, okay, I've got cancer. No one ever talks to you to say, okay, you got cancer. What type is it? What medication are you on? What are the doctors saying? If you mention to anyone well, not anyone, but most of the people that don't understand cancer in the African community, if you just say that I've got cancer, the first thing they'll do is literally like start crying and start saying, oh my goodness me, I'm so sorry. And that's a conversation that I tried to avoid the first time I had the diagnosis. And I actually did go into depression because I was thinking, oh my goodness, is this the end of me? What happens here? And then, of course, went through that. And then it came back the second time. And the second time, I said, you know what? I think it's enough. I just need to make sure I can try and live my life. And I realized that I was spending most of my time in hospital, in school as an international student. I literally didn't have a personal life. So I decided to have a personal life with cancer as well. And that personal life was actually making, friends who are patients as well. And unfortunately, I've lost a lot of friends through that. But I decided that I need to have a lifestyle. And I decided that I need to understand it more. So this is why I advocate for it. Research, when you talk about experimental treatment, I have gone through it. And then, of course, had to go through the third time, had to remove my breasts as well. I wasn't understanding why it keeps on coming back. I wasn't understanding why me. Then you get in the funk of, oh my goodness, why me? And then again, you step back and think, gosh, how am I going to go through this? Am I even going to be 30? And then after doing a few tests, they found that I have a cancer gene. And for me, that was something that I needed to hear because it was something that allowed me to understand why I'm going through what I'm going through. And then, of course, the fourth time. And for the fourth time, I had to do a stem cell transplant in Germany. And that wasn't easy, but I had to go through that, where you get your whole immune system out and then they build a new one. And it's not a procedure that I would recommend to my worst enemy, but it's much needed. It's very painful, but it was needed. And for me, I think that's where my journey has been. It's been a journey of understanding that I can only have one life because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And with cancer, you're fine today, the medication works, but when it comes back, you don't know whether this time it's going to work. And there's a lot that you have to go through. For example, my body has scars. I have a 9-year-old who's autistic, and he doesn't understand sometimes why mommy has got scars all over the back. And kids, we do talk about it. He looks at it, he even points, "Oh, you got scars." But then how do you explain to a child who doesn't understand that? So for me, then I decided I need to also embrace these scars, because if I stop hiding them and embracing them, then I can educate more people. But if I can talk more about cancer in Africa as well, if I can advocate for it, it becomes a topic that is actually like comfortable in the community. But the more research that is done in Africa, the more like people will survive as well. So one of the things that I'm doing is advocating for a hospital in my country, because if we can have one more hospital, if we can build one more hospital, then I believe a few more people can survive with regards to, like women being tested early without waiting, for their turn to be checked because of the process or the time or how many people are in front, or sometimes the machines are not working. So I decided to make sure that wherever there's a cancer conversation, I'm there. I'm advocating for it. I write about it. I'm vulnerable. And my vulnerability is something that I embrace. For example, I'm wearing a wig, and it's something that I would remove for you, because I'm comfortable with it. When you see me working in Africa, I don't have the wig. I want people to look at me and have that conversation. I remember the first time I went on social media to show people that, this is who I am. I'm living with cancer. I remember that picture, it went viral because people were like really shocked. And for me, I was like, I don't want you to be shocked. And I saw the comments, I was like, no, I want you to ask questions. So my journey is literally advocating for who I am and to say that the disease is not something that I'm scared of. It's a part of me, but it doesn't mean it defines me, if that makes sense. So this is why I keep on doing what I'm doing. This is why, people say, "Oh my gosh, you do so much." Today you were launching this. I was like, yeah, because I want to leave a legacy, and I have felt the loneliness of what an illness like this can make you feel, where you're like in a room, you are not allowed to interact with other people because of infections. I know what it means to lose someone with, like with this disease. So for me, I decide to use the power that I have, because when you're sick, you don't have the power. But when I'm okay, I do have the power. I do have that chance to know or to define what my day should be like, what projects I need to do, and to use my voice. Because when you have cancer, it literally takes over you. And it's also about having the right mindset. So, yeah, that's literally my journey.
Wow, Moy, what a journey. I'm getting inspired. I've never had a conversation with somebody who's been through such a traumatic, well, most of us would say traumatic because you've been in and out of hospital, you've gone through several surgeries, and you still have this positive outlook on life. I don't know, I'm tempted and prompted to ask you, where do you draw your strength? I mean,
Um,
when you heard
yeah.
the cancer, you were terrified. Where did you get the strength to then say, you know what? I'm going to use this not to my demise, but I'm going to use this to uplift me. How did you do that?
My dad. And I'm gonna tell you that I know people have had the privilege of having a really, like, good father or father figure in their life can attest to what I'm about to say. To say, when you have someone who is advocating for you, who is there for you regardless, it's important when you have that parent. And because I lost my mom at a very tender age, my dad has always been the person that has always told me, you can do it. No impossibilities. It was always, you can do this. And I remember the first time, like I said, I was sick, and being an international student. If you look at the cost of being an international student, my dad by then was just a mere lecturer. He had a decision of saying, okay, come back home or stay there. But if I stay here and do my medicals, he had the option of, again, to either come to me, be with me, or pay for my medicals. He couldn't do both. And of course, you want to save your child. So he said to me, I am working hard to make sure that you're okay, to make sure I'm paying your medicals there. So you have no time to cry. We can cry when this process is finished. You have to be strong, not only for yourself, but for me. He always used to remind me. And every time I go through anything, he used to remind me to say, you need to remind yourself just your journey, and that God will not give you something that, is going to be impossible for you to go through. Yes, stop. You can cry, you can ask questions, but remember, illness is also in the mind, because when you're sick and you're depressed, everything just shuts down. But when you're sick and you're trying to be as strong as you can, it also makes things a little bit lighter. But he never allowed me to feel sorry for myself, whatever I went through. And the funny thing is, I lost him during the pandemic. That for me was a wake up call as well, because I always thought I'll go before him. It's a conversation we always used to talk about. And I used to say to him, "Oh, I'm going to go before you." We had this candid conversation over death. But you can imagine, he's never been sick, never been in hospital, and gets COVID. 4 days later, he's dead. For me, that was a realization of just how life is so short, but his words are always there. So every time I try to get in this funk of, being scared, or how do I move another day, I always remember his voice. And because we speak in the language, remember your parents' voice telling you off. I was like, okay, you win, literally. And even when he passed on, this is the funniest thing, because when he passed on, I was in quarantine as well. And I remember looking up and just saying to myself, you've won, as in telling him, because I always used to say to him, you always have to have the last word. And I thought about it. Of course, I cried, I screamed, but then I always remember what he used to say. I was like, you have to go through it first and you'll cry later. Then I realized that, oh my gosh, I've just lost my best friend, my father, someone I speak to. But I realized that with the pandemic, he needed to be buried within a day. There were rules around that. And I thought, I can't take my time to cry. I need to bury him, even though I'm on the other side, and I'll cry later. And literally, I was looking in the mirror and talking and saying, "You have won. You've got the last word." So every time, that's where my strength comes from. It comes from knowing that he's always going to be with me. And trust me, even where I'm at right now, the advocating for Africa came from him because he used to advocate for adult education in Africa. So he encouraged me not to follow the route of being a lawyer, doctor, or a teacher, because that's what he knew. That's what my siblings knew. But he told me that I know you're different. So please just carry on and do what you need to do, and I'll support you. And when I was packing his things, every time I think, oh, I've stopped, I've done enough, I found a book called Normal Lies About Africa, and there was a note there. It said, to my dear daughter, one day you understand. And for me, this has been like a revelation, saying, okay, I think I can do more for this continent because this is my legacy. Because I asked myself, what is my legacy? And I always hear his voice. And I decided that I'll do a PhD in African studies because of that message, because of who he was, so that I can continue the work, so that if I go today, my legacy will continue. So I feel like every day he's here, like every single day. So that's where my strength is coming from every day. Yeah.
Wow. I I don't even know what to say to you, Moi. You've literally been through so much. You've been through a lot, from you losing your mom to cancer to losing your dad, who was your source of inspiration. I don't even know how you're standing here and you do these amazing things for Africa. Wow, I'm really inspired. How did this whole cancer journey affect your family, your husband? How did it affect your
Well,
child? I know you
yeah.
spoke about him being autistic as well. The dynamic must really be hard.
It is indeed. I mean, this is why I do what I do, because if you, again, let's talk about the African community. I advocate for it a lot because I want the narrative to change. I'm proud to be African, my heritage, my culture, but there are things I don't agree with, because you are told not to talk about grief. You're told not to talk about certain things. Like, you can't say much about cancer because what are people going to think? They'll be scared. Having a disabled child in our community, of course, some embrace that, but some don't understand. Because I'll give you an example. As a mother, there's something wrong with your child, but I was always told, oh, he's a boy, boys take long. But then, of course, when he has the diagnosis, a lot of like the older generation don't want to accept that, because what is autism anyways? Like, what is it? But also questions come of, is it from the mom side? Is it from the dad side? And you're like, it's not genetic, So for me, this is where I get my drive to say, okay, I want to bring up a child in a world that he knows he's always going to have a voice, and that whatever he has is not a definition of who he is. Even him being autistic, he's actually in mainstream school, because I refuse to put him in a special needs school. There's nothing wrong with that. But because I know that, autism has got different spectrums, and I know his strength, and I know that he just needed that little bit of help in a normal school for him to, to get where he is today. So I feel like the journey that I've gone through has been very, I won't say easy, but endurable on some days, because I also have something to live for. I think also having my son has been the beautiful blessing. So in as much as I know it feels like, oh my gosh, she's gone through so much, but also God has really blessed me, because he's blessed me with a child that, I look at and think, oh my goodness, what did I do to deserve this beautiful soul? You know, intelligent, my friend. Again, I'm trying to be a good a parent as my dad was to me. So I'm also using that, and we have this, this relationship. When you see my son and I, it's like brother and sister, and I love that relationship. I love that openness, and he knows that sometimes mom is not well. So even the way he looks after me, that is so beautiful as well. If I say, mommy's got a headache and I have to switch off the light, he'll come with water, and he just, like, he's seen his father do that. And then when it comes to my husband, oh my gosh, that's my best friend. Been married for 10 years, been friends for 17. And yeah, he's the only person that literally I walked through this journey with, and that I feel like every year we just go strength to strength. And this is why I do this, because it's my hope that, as I continue to build the brands that I build, he can also do what he wants to do with his dreams. Because when you're ill, your other half is living for you, if that makes sense. I want him to be able to say, oh, this girl is fine now, so I can, do what I want to do with my life. I know he's happy, he's doing what he wants to do, but I, just like me, I have, these ambitions of, I don't know, doing it for Africa, because this is me, this is where I get my energy from. I want to see that in him, because he supports me with whatever project I have. Like, there's nothing that I put on the table and say, I want to do this. You always say, let's do it, mama, because it goes with mama. Let's like, now I want to be that person that will be able to do that for him, to say, now, take a step back. It's your turn. What can we do for you? Because surely in the last 17 years, there's something that you want to do. It hasn't always been about holding my hand and, like holding me if I can't walk and stuff. So, yeah. So for the family, I know some days are difficult, but I think we've tried to find the good in the days that, when things are okay. And I think what has really helped is just having that open and honest conversation, which has been so great, to say, I am not okay today. And not only me, but him as well, to say, I am not fine. So we do talk. And then the most important thing is that we also have like a common ground to say, okay, what is it that will make you feel good about this situation? So we try to meet halfway. And I think that's what's the most important thing right now. Yeah. And the fact that I can be me and he can be himself as well, that has really helped us. Because, again, African setup, I do travel quite a lot. Um, the beautiful things that he also works from home, so that's really good. So we've never looked at it as like, oh gosh, your wife is always traveling and stuff. No, it's like, yeah, she's traveling because she's doing what she loves to do. And then when he's free, then he says, this, and I'm on holiday, so let me come. So he's also understood the work that I do. So then together, that really works, because when I come back and say, gosh, I had a bad day today, like work, then he gets it, because he's walked through that path with me.
Wow. Sounds like you and your husband are best friends, which is something that I think we can all pick a leaf from, and through this whole journey, he's really been there for you. Well, I'm really, really inspired with your story. I'm so motivated. So, I just wanted to ask you, the people who are going through things, it doesn't necessarily mean it's cancer. You can be diagnosed with something that feels life threatening, especially like what you said with our hospital setups here in Africa. What kind of advice would you have for that person? Where should they draw their inspiration? How do they balance each day? Some days feel like the world is crumbling in on you, and you're going through this situation, and maybe you don't have anybody there. What would you say to them as Mwai, that look, I've been through this for since I was 16 years old, but I'm here and I am happy. Yes, it's not perfect, but we're moving well. So, what
I
would you
think
say
the
to?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to talk about it. Again, it's growing up in the African community, as you know, there's a lot of things that you can't talk about. I think mental health is one of the things that only now that is being accepted, because we're taught to be strong, especially as women, or men actually. Like, men don't cry. I actually wrote an article on this. Like, no, men do cry and they should cry. And I'll come back to that, but I just want to tell you something. I remember when we lost my dad, my brother was saying sorry to me for crying. You get the news and then you cry, and then he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm thinking, why? Then it reminded me of, like, culturally how things have been. Like, men need to be strong, or sometimes women have to be strong through certain things that they go through. But I think one of the most important things that we need to put our feelings, we have to be very vulnerable. We need to talk about it, because you have to find someone you can confide in as well. It doesn't really have to be family, someone who you trust. But also, I think now there's also a lot of organizations in Africa that advocate, for mental health, but also organizations that advocate for whatever illness or whatever someone is going through. And I think that's a start as well, because working in Africa, I know that there's so much accessibility to that. But I think one of the most important things is also going to the local hospital to find out what help they have, what free help they have, because I'm sure that is there. And then there's also alternative medicine is something that has also really helped me. Alternative medicine, not just the Western medicine, it can be a good diet as well. For example, when you talk about cancer, turmeric, lemon, so taking something that is outside the Western medicine, especially if you don't have access to that. I think there's a lot of like herbal stuff that you can take as well. So it's also maintaining that healthy diet. I think that's very important. But I think mindfulness and wellness is something that I would really say is something that can help you, because when you're going through something and you're depressed, you honestly don't feel like there's any reason to wake up, or there's a reason to see another day or go through another hour. But once you've addressed how you feel, I think you can see that there'll be light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of what you're going through. And I think, yeah, just seek help. And I think that's another thing, seeking help without thinking, is someone going to think that I'm not strong enough, or does that mean everyone will know that I'm going through this? Because I think going through something on your own can be very dangerous as well. And I know that you have to confide in someone that you trust, but I think when you walk through something with someone, then you got someone to hold your hand through that. Yeah.
Thank you. So, you spoke
Hmm.
around the issues being quick to get to seek these medical interventions. So one of the things I think I've realized from working in the health sector as well is a lot of Africans have stigmatized certain types of illnesses, and we're very reluctant. For example, if you say breast cancer screening, it's like, ooh, wait,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there because no, I'm not ready to find out I have cancer. Or, if they say, let's check kidneys. A lot of Africans are really reluctant when it comes to early
Yeah.
detection of disease.
Even
And
cervic cancers, I was like, you just knowing you have to get a smear test is like, why should I do that? Like I understand that.
so maybe you can tell us what nudged you the first time you found out you had cancer. How did you, what drew you to then say, okay, let me do this, I'm doing this?
I'm asthmatic, so for me, I actually thought it's my asthma, and this is what my GP thought as well. So I honestly never thought it's anything to do with cancer. I mean, what do I know about cancer? Nothing. I thought it's just my asthma, and I also thought it's just the stress from work as well, because I was literally an international student, and as you know, the life in the diaspora is beautiful, but you have to work hard for it. So I was doing university work, and I thought, oh, I'm just tired and just under the weather, loss of breath, tight chest, things like that. And I remember I went to the GP twice, and it was just change your inhaler until GP was like, okay, I think let's see what the scans will say at the hospital and stuff. And for me, that was it. Firstly, my X-ray was okay with regards to my lungs and stuff. So that's when I'm like, okay, if it's not your asthma, then what is it? So this is when I was actually referred just to literally check. And I didn't know you can check yourself, because no one ever told me the simple maths of when you're in the shower, you can actually check yourself. And I remember when I was told that, okay, they found a small lump on my left side, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And the thing is, because I knew nothing about, stage one or stage two or what type, already I was thinking, that's it, I'm dead. So I think that's the first step that we should also look at. I think it's also having these community outreaches as well. I think we need them. We need them, because imagine if we had a lot of people advocating for these illnesses, especially in the remote areas in Africa. Imagine I was 16. I grew up in Africa. Imagine if there was so much talk around this, just like there's been talk around HIV and AIDS, I would have known. I wouldn't be scared because I remember when I was growing up home. By then, HIV and AIDS was there with regards to, like, people talking about it, with regards to leaflets and programs. I don't know about Botswana, but we had that on TV. Like they'll do this, like these programs, these adverts and stuff. So it's there. In school you're taught about it, but things like cancer or other illnesses, they don't talk about it. So of course, when as you're taught as a woman, you're supposed to keep your like your body is your temple, really. So how you dress, that's important. So if someone is telling you to say, or for example, can you touch yourself to check your breast, or can the doctor do that, you're thinking, why? If I'm feeling okay, why should I even book that appointment? And especially the smear test as well. When you get that letter to say you go for a smear test, you're thinking, why should I undress? And it's not really undressing, you're thinking, why should I do that? Like, if I'm okay, why should I even find a problem? But what we're not understanding is it's not finding a problem, it's actually preventing a problem. Because once they find it early, then it's something that is very beneficial to your own health. So I don't take it lightly. Any hospital appointment that you get a letter to say time for checkup, I'm there. Like, I am there. I'd rather know than not know. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mwai. I think we've spoken so extensively about your journey and how everybody else can then go ahead and early detection is better, like what you've been saying now. So these are great pointers that I think we can all really, really draw from, because, like I was saying, a lot of Africans, or a lot of us in Africa, are demising because we have that fear of saying, if I check my breast, I'll find a lump, and that's the end of me. That's the perception that we have. We just don't understand that early detection would actually help us, right? So I just wanted to ask you the final closing question in regards
Of
to
course.
our earlier conversation about, yeah, about Africa. Do you think as a people we're doing enough to actually place Africa as the destination of choice? I know you strongly advocate for Africa, but as a people, do you think we're doing enough? Or do you think there's more that can be done?
I think there's more that can be done. I think right now, a lot of conversations around destination Africa, a lot of conversations about bringing it back home have been happening in the different like creative sectors, or just different things. It's like, for example, there's the Dirty December. Ghana is doing that. A lot of people have been coming back into the continent. I know Rwanda. I've got visit Rwanda. There's a lot that's happening there. Partnership with different celebrities showcasing that side of Africa. I know there's Magical Kenya. I know Botswana. I've seen a lot of celebrities going there. Will Smith was just in Botswana. I know in Southern Africa that is happening as well. But also, let's look at the people that are exhorting the continent of Africa, the Africans in the diaspora, from Burna Boys to Tebes, etc. Africa is happening now, and I think people are now content with who they are as an African. And if you look at the stage, we're dominating, whether it's food, design, music, movies. And I feel like Africa is not just a trend, it's there to stay. So I think a lot is being done. And I feel like for every five conversations that I hear now, whether it's like on TV, there is that power of Africa in that conversation. Our own Africans are doing it out there and in Africa, but there's so much more we can do. So much more we can do, in the sense that we need to continue advocating for it, so that there's a lot of infrastructure happening. Routes need to be opened up. In as much as I'm advocating for Destination Africa, and so many other beautiful people are doing that, we can only do so much. We need our governments to get involved. We need the investors to get involved. We need our own Africans as well to have that pride to also bring it back home, not to say, okay, I'm coming out of Africa. Yes, it's good to get the opportunities, abroad, but let's bring it back home. Let's open Destination Africa. Because imagine if so many airlines can go to the different African countries. Imagine how seamless that journey would be. But also imagine if getting that visa in Africa between African countries was so simple, for someone who lives in United States or UK to travel in African countries. Really smooth. Some don't even need visas. Some can get it on entry. But for me as an African person, got Zambian passport, the other African countries that I can't go to unless I go to the embassy and apply for a visa, of course that's fine. But if we're going to open Destination Africa, I feel like there's so much more that we need to do. But that will come from the decision makers as well, or from the governments. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Mwai. We've had a great conversation, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think our legislators also have to come to the field. There's so much that can be done for Africa, and like you just said, yeah, like you just said, there's so many people advocating for Africa, but there's so much that you guys can do as individuals. We also need that collective from government, their buy-in, to sell Africa, because, like you said, Africa is such a beautiful place. Botswana is a very beautiful place when you go up north. Like you just said, we have a whole lot of celebrities who come here,
Mhm.
and like I do believe that Africa is actually the future. Even when you're
It is.
advocating for it right now, I see the future. It is.
It is. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing
So
to
thank
see
you
and
so
to feel.
Yes, and with Africa, I think it's also because we have a lot of wildlife. We have a lot of, it's natural. It's very natural. It's very you connect. It's a place where you can actually just come and you feel very refreshed and alive. This is what a lot of people say when they come to Botswana. So I can only imagine the places you've been talking about right now. So yeah, the future is Africa. Why, thank you so much for being with us today. It was such an exciting conversation. We are so happy that we had you today.